School lunches. They aren't known for being culinary masterpieces or overly nutritious, but somehow they may have just gotten worse. We all know Lunchables, the miniature snack pack filled with pieces of ham and crackers, or small DIY pizzas that have excited American children for years. Now Lunchables won't only be available at grocery stores nationwide, but at schools where children can buy them directly or receive them through a free lunch program. So the makers of Lunchables, Kraft-Heinz, have brokered a deal with the US federal government to sell their products to kids in schools. And let's be clear, they're not just selling Lunchables, okay? Lunchables are going to be served as lunch, or more appropriately, in lieu of lunch. I just want to know, on what planet is a Lunchable considered to be a nutritious lunch for a school-aged child? I get it as a snack for like a young kid. It's convenient, it's fun, but as a meal you serve at school? In the words of someone on Reddit, that's the best we can do for the kids? Who's getting the kickback from that? Today we're going to investigate Lunchables a little bit. They may seem simple, meat, cheese, crackers, a nostalgic treat from childhood, but in reality they are a lot more depressing than that. Are Lunchables really an appropriate meal to be served in schools? And is this a solution or a problem for school lunches? Before I get into it, a message from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get fresh ingredients and seasonal recipes right to your door every week. In my opinion, cooking for yourself is an essential life skill that if everyone had, the world would be a better place. But some days life can get between you and a home-cooked meal. But HelloFresh makes mealtime simple. With HelloFresh, you can choose from over 35 fresh recipes each week. Every meal I've had has been tasty, healthy, and it's fun and easy to plan your meals ahead of time. After you use my code, just choose your meals, how many servings you want, and pick your delivery time. You can easily pause or cancel at any time. There are several different menus including vegetarian, pescatarian, carb smart, calorie smart, and high protein. If you're like me and calorie conscious, you'll like how the calories are clearly presented on each meal. Unfortunately, I have to skip some of the more delicious looking but calorie dense meals. But there are plenty of fun, healthy dishes that fit into my diet, such as hoisin glazed shrimp with stir-fried sesame veggies. It's a great way to learn new recipes and taste things you might otherwise not try. It's nice to get new meals and switch it up from my usual go-to meals. I've actually borrowed a few of their vegetable recipes and added them to my personal rotation. HelloFresh lives up to their name as their ingredients are super fresh and the meat was high quality and tasted great. If you're in a dinner rut, I highly recommend giving HelloFresh a try today. Click the link below and use my code Kiana Docherty to get 65% off if you're in the United States. HelloFresh is available in 17 countries, so wherever you are, you will also get a special discount using the link below. Make sure to use my code Kiana Docherty. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Starting this year, school administrators will be able to buy two different Lunchables offerings for the 2023-2024 school year: turkey and cheddar cracker stacker and extra cheesy pizza. Much like the name suggests, the turkey and cheddar Lunchables includes slices of turkey and cheddar with crackers, and the pizza option includes a Kraft cheese blend, pizza sauce, and crusts. So I personally didn't have Lunchables growing up, but I knew about them and I wanted them. So I went and tried to buy the two Lunchables they were talking about for this video, but I found out Canada no longer has Lunchables. We just have Lunchmate. I know. I'm sorry. This is the best I could do as a Canadian. But according to the ingredients and everything I read online, these are virtually identical in every way. They will work enough for these purposes. So I bought the turkey and cheddar one and the pizza one. I also got the ham one because people were going off about how good the ham is online, and that made me very suspicious. I shit you not, my brother ate the ham out of all 5 Lunchables and put them back in the refrigerator. The round ham slices that come in Lunchables is probably the best tasting ham I've had. They're so juicy and taste dope. You know why? Because it's not normal ham. You know what the funny thing is? Opening these things up, they look incredibly unappetizing. Immediately, the smell is so strong. That fake meat flavor is like hits you in the face. And the first bite is like the fakest thing you've ever tasted in your entire life. But then another bite, and suddenly they're kind of good and you want to keep eating them. And the reason Lunchables taste kind of good is also the reason they're pretty bad. They're pumped full of stuff to make low quality ingredients tasty, palatable, dopamine ticklers. You can really even just like smell that the turkey and the ham are just like pumped full of that fake meat smoke flavor. And if you eat it, the meat leaves this like thick coating of MSG on the inside of your mouth for like an hour. Oh, the smell is so strong, man. Woo! Previously, Lunchables were made with mechanically separated meat, also known as pink slime. Today, the ingredients list doesn't list mechanically separated meat, but sadly, that doesn't actually mean that the meat quality has gotten any better. When consumers become conscious of an ingredient, such as pink slime, and they decide, hey, I don't want to eat that anymore, food manufacturers don't always remove it from the ingredients list because usually it was there because it's super cheap or it serves some purpose. They just get sneakier. They rename it something else, they lobby to change guidelines, and they basically subvert your ability to make a healthy choice. Open any pizza. Has a strong smell too. It doesn't smell good. I'll tell you that. It smells like I don't know, that's such a weird shot. The pizza round, it's like a cardboard puck. It feels like the stalest little naan or something that I've ever felt in my life. But if you eat it, it's both sweet and melts in your mouth, melts on your tongue, which is a quality of fat or simulated fat. It's a quality of a food that's often very intentional on the part of food manufacturers and has been linked to overeating. And the cheese, it's not even technically cheese. On the front of the Lunchable, they call it pasteurized prepared cheese product. And on this Canadian knockoff one, they call it processed cheese food. Like, this is seriously supposed to be the best they can do for these kids. I'm pretty sure they serve murderers and serial killers better meals than this in jail. Can we just quickly take a look at what other countries are serving their school children?
Let's take a look at what kids around the world eat for lunch. French students can expect up to a 4-course meal at lunch. They begin with a salad of fresh veg, followed by quality protein like salmon with a side of roasted broccoli. They wouldn't be French without...
I think we've seen enough. Well, we're one country deep and America already looks terrible. I looked it up. Apparently in France, they actually do serve their kids 4-course meals. Now, I don't know exactly how much we can trust that video, but let's take a look at the subreddit that's dedicated to school lunches for some other examples. South Korea, Sweden, Brazil. Clearly, plenty of countries have figured out how to serve their school children healthy, whole food-based, even locally grown meals at lunchtime. And from what I've seen, it seems to be an agreement that benefits the kids, the schools, and local farmers. Meanwhile, in America,
we dare you to guess what's on this plate.
Apparently, it's supposed to be a chicken cheesesteak sandwich.
It is disgusting.
This is what students are being served, not all that appetizing. The district says it's due to nationwide food and supply shortages.
And I look in the bag and there's like this fried little black thing in there. Don't know what it was. It was really gross. Like, I just stopped eating after that.
Lunchables will soon become a part of school lunch programs as the USDA is pushing for healthier lunches.
Not to mention, okay, a Lunchable is like the definition, the poster boy of ultra-processed food. Which, by the way, here are some headlines that have come out about the issues with ultra-processed food over just the last few months. News: eating ultra-processed food increases the risk of cancer. Ultra-processed foods can affect fetal growth and development. Ultra-processed foods linked to early death. Now, according to the article, classic Lunchables actually had to be reformulated in order to make their way into schools. Don't worry, parents, these aren't the crap we sell in grocery stores. The two Lunchables now meet National School Lunch Program guidelines and have a specialized recipe that incorporates more protein and whole grains, reduced saturated fat and sodium, and an increased serving size. According to Kraft-Heinz, the turkey and cheddar option comes in a 3.5-ounce container, includes 2-ounce equivalents of meat/meat alternative. So does it come with meat or a meat alternative? And 1-ounce equivalent of grain and meats whole grain rich criteria. I love how it doesn't say the product has whole grains. It instead says 1-ounce equivalent of grain and meets whole grain rich criteria. They're like, look, we can't actually say that it has whole grains because it has very little grain at all, but we can say that it meets the criteria. In case you have no idea what I'm talking about and you're like, wait, what? How is that not the same thing? Well, the food industry has this weird obsession with like lying, and semantics for them is literally everything. Wordplay and misdirection. It's just how they roll, which we'll get into a little bit later. Another article says, the pizza box provides 2 ounces of meat or meat alternative, 2 ounces of grains, and 1/8 of a red-orange vegetable. I mean, I didn't see a vegetable and oh, they must mean this. This is a sad excuse for a red-orange vegetable, okay? That is tragic. I feel like everyone remembers years ago when the US school lunch program was declared a failure because they were over there calling ketchup vegetables, and I think, what was it, deep fried French fries also vegetables. Sounds like they're still heading that direction, which is clearly some variation of what's happening here now with Lunchables. Tweak a few definitions, lower your standards a lot, and boom, you've got yourself a nutritious lunch for kids. Now, like I said, the semantics of the entire thing are really important. So let's look a little bit further into what actually meets the criteria for a meat/meat alternative. Meats and meat alternates, M/MA, include meat, poultry, fish, cheese, yogurt, soy yogurt, dry beans and peas, whole eggs, tofu, tempeh, peanut butter, or other nut or seed butters, and nuts and seeds. So it sounds like it's a bunch of whole food-based protein sources. But if we read a little bit further, for the National Student Lunch Program, enriched macaroni type products with fortified protein as defined in blah 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 may be counted as meeting as part of the M/MA requirement. So the meat/meat alternate category, as you can see, lots of room for interpretation there. You see, there's not that much that a food company can do to reformulate turkey and cheddar, but the possibilities are endless when you consider macaroni to be a meat/meat alternate. And I know people are vegetarians and stuff, but I think we can all agree that the whole food-based source, not as in meat, and as in any of the other ones that were listed, fortified macaroni, okay, no, that's not right. And all of this is because it's difficult for the food industry to enjoy fat profit margins on whole foods, but it becomes exponentially easier as you process them. If we look at the consumer grade Lunchables, the front of the package says roast white turkey, cured smoke flavor added, cheddar, pasteurized prepared cheese product, crackers. I feel like they put this on the front here specifically to trick parents, to make them think, oh yeah, that's the ingredients list, so they don't look any further. Or maybe it's because when you expect something to be so simple, you really don't expect the ingredients list to be 44 items long. Would you guys call this food, or is it more appropriate to call it food-ish? For me, this is the biggest problem with a lot of the food right now. It's a product first and food second, which is why awareness of this stuff is so key. The only reason half those ingredients are in there is to keep the price down and profits high. It would obviously be okay to eat something like this every once in a while, but once it's making its way into school lunches as if it were genuinely a substitute for real food, that's a serious problem. And I find it so funny that none of these articles mention how much this deal is potentially worth for Kraft-Heinz. Obviously there's no numbers, but a federal level deal for Kraft-Heinz, that is huge. I'm guessing triple-digit millions at least. These edible food-like substances are created for the sole purpose of profit, not nutrition, and I don't think that they should be distributed by schools to kids. And the insane irony of this entire thing is that they're being served to school children amid growing concerns of their health as a solution to this problem.
Lunchables will soon become a part of school lunch programs as the USDA is pushing for healthier lunches.
The new Lunchables rollout comes amid changes issued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to school food programs aimed at reducing sugars and sodium levels. Schools are required to offer meals that contain 5 meal components: fruit, vegetable, protein, grain, and milk. Under new proposals, schools are encouraged to use more locally grown food. Right, yeah, that sounds exactly like Lunchables. The USDA has said it plans to invest $100 million in a Healthy Meals Incentives initiative, offering farm-to-school grants and the replacement of kitchen equipment put out in the 1980s as schools moved to prepackaged processed food. Last month, the U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack told CNN that the purpose of the changes is to improve the health and welfare of our children. Do any of these sentences align with bringing Lunchables into schools? Like, am I missing something here? Because it sounds like everything you guys just said is the total opposite of Lunchables. So I don't understand. I don't understand. How bad were lunches before this that Lunchables are basically farm to table for these guys? The changes come as rates of childhood obesity have become a serious problem, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So the answer to the childhood obesity epidemic is to give kids Lunchables? There's so much data linking ultra-processed food to obesity. Plenty of scientists think that ultra-processed food and our movement toward it as a society is why we're obese. And you're going to give them Lunchables. Kind of sounds like Lunchables and maybe even Kraft-Heinz are part of the problem and maybe shouldn't be part of the solution. I really hate the idea of any sort of branded food product being sold to children in schools. I know they already have things like that, but like this, distributed like that, that's crazy. Offering branded packaged food to children through the National School Lunch Program essentially allows food companies to market directly to children with the added credibility that comes with associating their product with schools. It's making the product ubiquitous to the children of America. Not one kid is not going to know what a Lunchable is after this. Therefore, more kids and more of their parents are going to be aware of, interested in, and buying more Lunchables. The only effect to their sales is more. Now, even those children whose parents would not know about Lunchables or would not consider buying Lunchables will be aware of and therefore more likely to buy the product. You may be thinking, oh, well, being aware of something or the proximity to something, that's not that big of a deal, but it absolutely is. Most advertising actually works through the mere exposure effect, which is our psychological bias to liking and preferring things that we're more familiar with. In other words, the more you are exposed to a product, the more you like it. Kendron continues, Kraft-Heinz stands to gain immensely from this collaboration in the short term through direct sales and in the long term through increased brand recognition and loyalty. One of your first thoughts has to be, how much is this worth seriously to Kraft-Heinz? Not even in the short term, in the long term. This is a huge deal to land. Whose palms were getting greased? That's like the question you seriously have to ask yourself. Imagine selling out the health of your nation's school children to big corporations who just want to make a buck off them. Now, there are a lot of factors that come into play here. Lots of schools are underfunded. They don't have the money to pay the staff to make the food. Maybe for these schools, unfortunately, Lunchables could be a tempting option. But as Katie Wilson of the Urban School Food Alliance put it best, the fact that a processed packaged food meets school lunch standards is part of what needs to change in the National School Lunch Program. It is a well-documented fact that that meal that kids receive at lunchtime at school is sometimes the only meal they have all day. Over 20 million children in the USA are dependent on the school lunch program. To meet the requirements, their families have to reach a certain level of poverty, and that meal genuinely may be the most nutritious meal they consume all day. It is extremely sad to think about these kids, about 1 in 5, who desperately rely on this meal as a major contribution to their day's calories and nutrition and might be getting Lunchables instead. Not to mention, now that Lunchables have been given the stamp of approval, what else is going to be put in lieu of real food? It feels very much so like a step in the wrong direction. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Also, if you haven't seen my last video on fat camps, go check it out.